working on Android for like 10 to 12 months, and then I'm working on Java right now at a financial firm. So I was told that I might have to work on MicroStrategy, and my lead has asked me to get my hands on MicroStrategy. So basically, MicroStrategy is completely new to me, and I have a little bit basic idea about data warehousing. I'm not that much good at data warehousing, and I've been reading through MicroStrategy documents, and I guess I know what MicroStrategy is, but then I would like to hear everything from you, so that as you say your experience with MicroStrategy, you can explain it to me clearly if I might be wrong in what I read. I have a quick question there. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No problem, just go ahead.
Yes, so as I know that MicroStrategy software is not available for free, right? So will I be getting the software to practice from you?
Yes, it's available for free. We have MicroStrategy always gives the evaluation edition software. Okay, what we can do is throughout the training, I will just share one document. You can directly download it from the MicroStrategy site and you can install on your machine.
Okay, let's try that. Maybe you'll tell me about that later. Sorry, I asked you quickly.
No problem, no problem. That's fine. You can just ask me any question. That's okay. So what you can do is like when we start with the training, RVH Technologies will share a document with you. I will forward to them and they will forward to you. And it has a link. You just have to create an account using a corporate email ID. And once that's been done, you can just go ahead and download the latest version. That's MicroStrategy 10, and that you can install in our machine. That should be okay.
What if I don't have a corporate email? Like, I think I already used my school's email address last time.
But they will email you this thing, what we say, license key on that particular email ID. That we will work out. That will work out. I will ask someone from the RVH to just register. Okay, so that should be okay. I mean, I can get it. What do we say, the dummy ID, and we can use that particular license key as well.
Sure, sounds good. Okay, let's go.
Anything else?
No, that's it. That's it for now. Thank you.
No problem. So I've just shared my screen, and please do let me know once you can see it.
I'm able to see it.
Okay. First, I will just quickly walk you through about the training content so that you will have an overview, like what kind of topics we're going to cover throughout the next 4 to 5 weeks. Okay. So first of all, the MicroStrategy, I will just give you a brief background about the MicroStrategy. A MicroStrategy is a business intelligence reporting tool. It's a powerful business intelligence reporting tool. In any data warehousing project, there are like 5 stages. You get some file, you get some data from the user, you process it, you store in your database, and on top of that you have a reporting environment which fetches the data from the data warehouse and display in the form of reports, documents, or dashboards. So the MicroStrategy is a front-end BI tool which helps the user to analyze the data and justify the decisions for their business. Okay, so throughout this about why MicroStrategy, I would say the MicroStrategy is a leading BI tool. It's available everywhere. It's not only that you have the reports, like to view the reports, you have to log in through your user interface, the front end, nothing. You can even view your MicroStrategy report from the mobile while traveling or anything. So it's a powerful tool. It's a transaction reports are available. The normal beautiful flash documents dashboards are available. So it's a very leading and it's a very powerful tool, and we will see like how exactly the MicroStrategy really works and why it's leading in the BI. From the training perspective, like we're gonna cover there are few topics that I have just jotted down over here. We have MicroStrategy desktop. MicroStrategy comes with the various interfaces. You have something called as desktop or a developer. Developer is the name given after 9.3. But yeah, MicroStrategy desktop or a developer is a tool component through which you actually architect your entire design. You define all the objects, you define all the joining conditions, the relationships, every architect. It's been done under that tool. And there is something called as front end. It's a MicroStrategy web through which the end users just have an access to run the reports and analyze the data. So we're going to definitely cover the MicroStrategy desktop, And under the MicroStrategy desktop, we're going to cover a few things about the administration, how to configure the server, how to configure the few things with respect to the administration, how to connect it to the metadatas and databases and everything. So even that we're going to cover up. We even going to cover up something with respect to the entire thing, I would say, the entire thing about the MicroStrategy architect, how exactly you're going to design your architect. So once you have the physical model, logical model, you have to incorporate those models in your MicroStrategy environment, and that we're going to definitely cover under the MicroStrategy architect. So the MicroStrategy architect is someone who has an in-depth knowledge about the underlying database, how the tables are related, how the joining conditions are going to be, and that model, whatever the logical and physical model you have designed for your project, the entire model is going to be incorporated in MicroStrategy by defining various kinds of objects, defining the relationships, and so on. So that would be covered under the MicroStrategy architect. MicroStrategy developer is someone who's looking out from the development perspective. They're going to create all the objects. They're going to create the reports. They're going to create the documents, dashboards as per the requirement. So whatever the topics we have with respect to the developer, it's just that they are not going to touch the schema architect, but yeah, whatever the application architect they have in MicroStrategy, they're going to develop the entire thing. The last thing is the MicroStrategy report services and dynamic dashboards. MicroStrategy is a very powerful tool to create very beautiful dashboards, and there are a lot of things that you can actually incorporate in the dashboards, and that also is going to cover up as a different topic. So I've just jotted down the entire thing. What are the things that you're going to cover under the MicroStrategy desktop, the server configuration, and few things about the administration. Even under the architect, we're going to walk you through about the models, the logical model and the physical models. So just you get a good knowledge about the basic data warehousing concepts and how you can actually relate with your MicroStrategy reporting environment. So that's all about the creating the schema objects, and even from the developer you have certain style manipulations, data manipulations, documents, and everything. And last thing, there are a few things that about the advanced topics about the MicroStrategy. So it's not only that we're going to cover the basic MicroStrategy, but there are few topics which are considered as the advanced level, like creating the advanced filters, the advanced metrics, how to tune your reports, even that all something about the cubes. This all would be covered up under the advanced MicroStrategy. And the last couple of things is the MicroStrategy web and the dashboards. So this is a quick, I'll just walk you through about the training content, and just to you get an overview and just an idea like what all things we're going to cover up in the next coming weeks. Before we actually discuss about the MicroStrategy more, do you have any questions so far?
Yeah, I had a quick question.
Sure, please.
Do you have any idea about the web SDK in MicroStrategy?
See, the SDK is something. Okay, yeah, I think you would be much more interested because you are pretty much aware about the .NET or a Java. Okay, so
Yeah.
so the MicroStrategy SDK is something, where we actually require some coders to change the look and feel of the. I will not say only the look and feel, but some functionalities of the MicroStrategy interface as well. Majorly we have a plug and play feature. MicroStrategy, like if you want to incorporate something, you just have to download that folder and deploy under some location, and your customization would be done. But in case you want to do something else, more customization, where you actually require the coders, and they would have an in-depth knowledge how you exactly want to make these changes by doing some coding over there. So the MicroStrategy SDK is related to that piece, and I think
That won't be covered, I think, right in this class, right?
yes, we don't cover the SDK. I can give you the
No.
I can give you the basic overview, which all folders you have to look out for, where exactly the changes can happen, and I think from there you can definitely. I think you have a good knowledge of the coding, and I think you can easily pick it up from there.
Yeah, let's try it. Yeah, that will might be helpful, yeah.
Okay.
And also you said that we'll be covering a little bit of data warehousing too, correct?
Yeah, we're going to cover up the logical modeling and the physical modeling concepts, so that will be really helpful when you actually work on MicroStrategy architect.
Sure, sure. Okay.
Okay,
Please go ahead.
no problem. All
Yeah.
right. So now we're gonna the first thing that we generally discuss is about the microstrategy architect. Before we actually go and see how microstrategy is, what kind of things you can do, but it's always better to understand how microstrategy actually works. What is the backend architecture, like how exactly the microstrategy interacts with the data warehouse to fetch in the required data. Now this is the just overview microstrategy BI architecture. The first three on the left hand side you see a three components that we really not going to worry about that from the microstrategy perspective. I'm going to definitely walk you through all, but from the microstrategy perspective, as a microstrategy architect or a developer, we're going to concentrate much more on this microstrategy and metadata. I'm going to come back to that. First, let's start with the entire flow from source system. Okay, so whenever you work on a project, you actually require a data in your database, right? How does this data comes in? So whenever you're working on a project, the user sends in their data, whatever the daily feeds or the weekly feeds they have. It could be a flat files, it could be a raw data in any format they can just forward to your team. It could be an Excel sheet, it could be a notepad, it could be a Microsoft Access, anything. So that depends how exactly the client records their data. So whatever the daily records they have, for an example, the daily transactions, which product was sold, what was the amount, what was the discount given, and so on, they are not going to store in the tables, columns, nothing. They are just going to store in as a flat file, and they're just going to forward to you guys. So that's what it says as the source system. The source systems are the actual data feed, whatever the data you get in from the user, which are not processed, which are not any kind of a constraints applied, nothing. It's a raw complete data, no aggregation, no constraints, nothing. Whatever you get in, that becomes your source system because it's an actual data feed. Once you get in the data from the once the data resides in the source system, you have to make sure the data is much more organized. It's completely formatted, and it's stored in a much more organized way in the format of tables, columns, and everything. All the required constraints are applied, pre-aggregations are applied if required. So we have something to make sure that from the source system it actually comes into the data warehouse as per the required all formats, constraints, and aggregation. There is a one more backend tool which is called as ETL. ETL is again a backend tool in the data warehousing, and it stands for extract, transform, and load. The name itself suggests the three process stages. First stage, extraction. Okay, once your file has been residing under the source system, it has to extract the required columns only. Okay, in my flat file, I would have 100 of columns, but you really don't require all those columns to reside in your database or a data warehouse. So ETL tool, the first thing that is going to do is it's going to extract the only required columns which I really need in my data warehousing environment. So the extraction is going to extract the required columns. Second step, it's going to transform it. So whatever the transformations, whatever the mapping, whatever the pre-aggregation, whatever the constraints you want to apply, all would be done by the ETL. So once the transformation has been done, my data is much more it's formatted, or constraints are applied, and it's good to store in the data warehouse. Once that's been done, my transformation has been done, all the mappings have been defined, everything. The last step is to load. So it's going to finally load into my underlying database or a data warehouse in a format of a tables and the column. So ETL, we are really not going to work on that, but it's better to have a knowledge how exactly my data gets flow from point A to point B, like from the source system to the BI reporting tool throughout the project. So the ETL is a backend tool which will help you to extract the required data and finally store in my data warehouse. There are various ETL tools in the market like DataStage, Informatica, and so on. That depends what kind of tool your client is, or what kind of tool your client is using or your project is using. The third stage, the third area, it's the data warehouse. The data warehouse is it's a database where your actual data resides. Whatever the data you want to do a reporting on. So everything has been stored in the data warehouse. There are n number of databases available in market like Oracle, Teradata, Netezza, and so on. So even that depends what kind of database your project is using or your client is using. MicroStrategy is supported by every database. It's irrespective. It doesn't say that okay, MicroStrategy does not support Oracle or not, Teradata. No, it supports all the underlying database on whichever platform you want to do the reporting on. Okay, so there are three stages: one, source system, ETL, and the data warehouse. Finally, once my data is ready for the reporting, I'm going to run the reports. I'm going to perform any requests from MicroStrategy. So if you look over here, this is our arena. This is our area where we're going to actually concentrate much more. Whenever I perform any request, when I say perform a request, whenever I try to run any report, say for an example, I'm trying to run a report which will give me the yearly sales information. So whatever the request you operate from MicroStrategy, it never hits directly the data warehouse to fetch the data. No, there is a one important component along with the MicroStrategy. It's called as metadata. When we configure the MicroStrategy, I'm going to show you each and everything, but just to understand the architecture, whenever you perform any kind of a request, the first thing it's going to do is it's going to hit the metadata. A metadata is a repository which stores all the object definitions. So whenever you create any kind of an object in MicroStrategy, just to walk you through about what kind of objects we have, these are all objects we have in MicroStrategy. We have something called as schema objects, we have something called as application objects, and something called as reports, documents, and dashboards. Really don't worry, this is just to make you familiar with the terminologies, but yeah, we're going to cover much more in detail every kind of objects. So whenever you have any kind of a MicroStrategy object and you run a report on it, the first thing it's going to come to the metadata. A metadata is a repository which stores all the definitions of the object. It does not stores any data, but it stores the definition of all the objects that you have created in MicroStrategy, which all tables you are using, what mapping has been done for a particular object, what kind of relationship you have defined between the objects, what kind of aggregation you have defined on an object. Everything would be recorded over here. Either you update, you delete, you create as a new, everything would be recorded in the metadata. So coming back to our example, if I'm trying to run a yearly sales report, it's going to come to the metadata and it's going to read the definition of the objects, and based on that it's going to formulate the SQL query. Once okay, like it's going to understand, okay, this is the object, this is the definition, this is the relationship. If in case you're applying any filter, anything based on that, once my object definitions have been read, it's going to formulate the SQL query. Once the SQL query has been, it's been generated over here, only thereafter it's going to open a connection to the data warehouse, fire that particular generated SQL, fetch the data from the data warehouse, and then finally come to the MicroStrategy and display the data in as per the required format that you have defined under the reports, documents, dashboards, or anything. Alright, so whenever you perform any request from MicroStrategy, just remember it does not hit the data warehouse directly. It always interacts with the metadata, read all the definition, formulate the SQL, then only open a connection to the data warehouse, fire that SQL, fetch the data, and come back to MicroStrategy and display as per the required format. How to do the configuration, how to configure the metadata, how to map it to the data warehouse, we're gonna see each and everything in the coming classes. But this is just to get you an overview, like how the MicroStrategy architect is and how MicroStrategy components interact with each other. So I'm just going to take a pause over here. Any question with respect to the architecture?
No, that one I'm good, thanks.
No problem. Alright, so this is pretty much about the architecture, and today I'm just going to walk you through about the interfaces and few things that we're going to just try it out. This is the interface of the MicroStrategy developer or a desktop. As I said, MicroStrategy developer or a desktop is a tool where all the architects and developers work. This is the interface which is not which none of the users are going to come over here. These are all purely from the architects or the developer perspective. They're going to define each and every object, they're going to create it, they're going to map it, define the relationship, and at the end going to create all the objects and the reports or dashboards. So this is the MicroStrategy developer or a desktop interface, and on the left hand side, whatever the objects you see, those are the initial entry points, and they are called as MicroStrategy project source. Okay, so whatever the folders you see over here, like MicroStrategy analytics module, training, and so on, these are all called as project source. A project source is an object, they are the initial entry points, and each project source is a one-to-one mapping to your metadata. Okay, we're gonna see how to configure all these things, but yeah, just to make you familiar, initial entry point, whenever you work on MicroStrategy, the first thing that you have to do is you have to log in into the project source with the required credentials. Once you open a connection, once you create a session, it's a direct mapping to one-to-one with your metadata, and thereafter you can start doing all your activities. So if you look over here, I have around like 4 project source, and out of that I have 2 which are connected directly, and there are other 2 which are connected via server. Okay, so the MicroStrategy modes, I would say there are 2 type of modes that you can see from a developer. You have a 2-tier or a direct mode, or a 3-tier or a server mode. So you can configure your MicroStrategy either 2-tiered or a direct mode, and you can even configure your MicroStrategy with a 3-tier or a server mode. So the 2-tier is something which is local, everything local to your machine. No other remote machine can connect to you. No, the servers are not configured. It's just everything residing on your laptop, and you can run your reports, you can configure your metadata, everything local to your machine. Whereas if you want to configure a server, you will have one central machine where you install the MicroStrategy, where you install the server, and you will have a multiple remote machines which going to connect with that particular server. So the one which you see with the globe icon behind the project source icon, they say that okay, this particular project source is configured as a server. We even going to see how to configure this server and everything. So coming back over here, once I try to log in into the MicroStrategy, I just have to provide my required credential, the authentication. I'm going to log in as an administrator, and once I log in into the administrator, it's going to list down all the projects in it. Okay, the initial project source which is pointing to the metadata, and under that you're going to see multiple projects. So whatever you see over here, like customer analysis module, financial module, HR module, or a tutorial project, each particular project is pointing to a specific database. Now you're working on a project, you can have a multiple database. I would have some sales information residing in Oracle, I would have some profitability data residing on Netezza. So you can, that irrespective, you can have the individual projects in MicroStrategy pointing to altogether different databases and fetch the data. So you can have a multiple projects created within the same project source, and each project can be point to a same database or a different database. That depends upon your requirement. So if you look over here, I'm just going to open one of the project, and you will see all the default folder structures. So you will have the same folder structures and the hierarchy across all the projects that you have. So you really don't have to worry like, okay, if I walk you through up in the single project, will I be able to work on the second project? Yes, because everything is same. I mean, like, you really don't have to worry from the design perspective. So even if I open the MicroStrategy tutorial, you're going to see all the same types of objects and same folder structures and hierarchies. But yeah, data is going to be different, the way you design your objects are going to be different, but from the look and feel and from the design perspective, the MicroStrategy design perspective, they are all same. So I can just you can browse through the various folders, and you will see all the objects that you have to create in MicroStrategy. So if I go back to the presentation, I'm just going to walk you through like what kind of objects we have. There are something which are called as schema objects. The schema objects are the objects which are directly mapped to the underlying tables and the columns. So we have something called as attributes, we have something called as facts, really don't worry, this is just to make you familiar with the terminologies. But yeah, this all objects, whatever the objects comes under the schema objects, those are the objects which directly map to the tables and the columns. Once this, whenever you work on a project, the first thing that you have to design, you have to do it with the schema objects. Once you're done with the schema objects, on top of that, you're going to create the application objects like filters, metrics, custom groups, consolidation, and XYZ. So once the schema objects are defined, only on top of that, you can create the application objects. Application objects are always going to use the schema objects, and they are not directly mapped with the tables and columns, but indirectly via schema objects. Once you're done with the schema objects, once you're done with the application objects, thereafter you can start creating your reports, documents, and dashboards. So if I come back to the MicroStrategy desktop, you will see all the folders over here. So like whatever the schema objects you have, those have been listed in the folders over here. Whatever the public objects or the application objects you have, for each of the object type you have a separate folder. So you can just save all your objects to the corresponding folder locations, and that would become easy to maintain. Now let me just run one sample report. I'm just going to create a new report. This is just a tutorial project where all my objects are already defined, and I'm just going to run a sample report and see how the MicroStrategy is working. So let me just drag and drop few objects over here. I'm not going to drag and drop multiple objects, just few of them. Okay, I think this should be okay, and just one simple. Don't worry about all these objects, but we're gonna see how to create each and everything. So I've just pulled few objects over here, full information, and I think that's it. So if you look over here, I have pulled the year, I have pulled in the country, subcategory, and the revenue information. So whatever the required objects that I want to see the data for, I just drag and drop, and when I try to run the report, my data is front of me. The one thing that one important thing that you have observed over here, we have nowhere written the SQL. As I said, whenever you run any kind of a request operation from MicroStrategy, it's going to come to the metadata, read the definition, and formulate the SQL. So you really don't have to write any kind of a SQL over here. MicroStrategy, it's a powerful tool which is going to generate the SQL by its own, and it's going to run at the database level. So let me just add one more object over here. I just wanted to show you something. Not this one. Let's just use this one. Just a minute. Let me just try to use something else. Okay. Alright. So I just wanted to show you, like, we really don't write any SQL. That depends what kind of objects you are placing in the report, and at the back end the MicroStrategy itself creates the SQL based on, of course it's going to based on the way you have created and defined your objects. Based on that, my SQL statement is going to be generated. That particular SQL is going to be firing at the database and fetch the required data. So it's a powerful tool. You don't have to write the SQL. The way you have created your objects, based on that, it's going to formulate the SQL and fetch the required data for us. Okay, now let me just, I think this should be okay. Alright, it's not that only you see the data for the objects that you use in the report. You can even drill downs to a level where you want a kind of a split data. So now let's say for an example over here, I'm seeing the data based on year, country, subcategory, profit margin. But I say, okay, for 2010 I'm really seeing a good profit and a margin, but now I need to know via month. I need to know a split via month. Even that all is possible over here. You just have to double click over here. It's just gonna re-execute the another report, and now if you look over here, along with the year, it has added the month attribute, and now I can see all the split based on the month as well. So you can design your reports in such a way that apart from displaying the data as a summarized level, you just have to double click, and you can drill it to a specific detail level, and that becomes very useful for the user to analyze the data more in depth. So we're going to see all these manipulation methods, all the designing methods, but this is something that I just wanted to make you familiar with the desktop environment. A desktop is something where where all the architects and the developer are going to work, and they're going to design each and every architect objects and everything. So the microstrategy architect or a developer, it's very useful. From it's going to be like to define all your objects, everything, every development and the architect perspective, it's going to be done under the microstrategy developer or a desktop component. The other part, as I said, it's a microstrategy web. It's a front end component. So I'm just going to walk you through on that as well. Sorry. Okay, so if you look over here, this is my microstrategy web interface. As an end user, I'm going to log into the microstrategy through the web. This is called as a 4-tier connection, where you have a web server on which you have deployed the microstrategy, and you can start using the microstrategy web. So you have a microstrategy connected as a 2-tier, 3-tier, or a 4-tier mode. Now when an end user logins into the microstrategy through web, the first thing, of course, they have to authenticate themselves. So when I try to use the microstrategy, I have to provide my required credential, or it's going to do the Windows authentication or so on. But yeah, I'm going to log in as an administrator, and once I log in, it's going to show me what all folders I have and what kind of activity or what kind of reports I can actually run it from there. So if you look over here, I can browse through all these folders, and from the development perspective, it's very limited. You cannot do everything what you can in microstrategy desktop or a developer. Microstrategy web is very limited to either create the documents, dashboards, just a prompt filter or a metric. That's it. You cannot create the schema objects. No schema objects can be created in microstrategy web. It has to be via desktop or a developer. A microstrategy web is something, just a front end component where you can just browse to the required folders, run the documents, dashboards, reports, and analyze the data. So if you look over here, I'm just going to browse to one of the folders, and on a single click, it's going to execute the dashboard for me and display the data. So let me just go through a simple dashboard over here. I've just browsed to the particular location. I executed one document. So at the back end, it's going to start executing the data sets and everything. But finally, it's going to display the data as per the design which I have incorporated. So this is one of the sample dashboard. We're just going to wait for a second. Yeah. If you look over here, this is one of the sample dashboard. It's a very beautiful dashboard, and there are a lot of information which I have, it's actually been incorporated. So this is the dashboard which shows the data for something around top 10 world airports. So what are the top 10 airports we have based on the passenger volume. So if you look over here, there are like top 10 airports which are listed along with the YTD volume, year-to-date volume. You can actually see a trend based on the months, the passenger count based on the trailing 12 months, percentage change year on year, percentage of the international passengers, and so on. So there are a lot of information which we have actually incorporated in the top top section. It's not only you're displaying the data in the tabular format. No, you're displaying the data as a combination of a tabular and the graphs. So if you have all the records listed in the table, you have the trend chart, you have something as a horizontal bar chart. So it's a combination of the grid and graph over here. And at the below section, you will see information about a particular airport which is selected. So now let's say, for an example, I select the London Heathrow Airport over here. As I just select over here, my image got replaced, text description got replaced, and the monthly trend also got reflected based on the selection I have done. As soon as I clicked on London Heathrow, all the below information got updated with the based on the selection. So let's say if I click on this particular airport, again same thing, and so on. So it's not that you're just showing the data, but you even adding some kind of a selectors where you have a flexibility to define, okay, which all section I want to actually refresh or update it, and based on that you can show the information in any of the format. So this is one page where we have all the passenger volume trend. You even have another page. It's just like, it's a kind of a look and feel like having a different tabs. So when I click on the historical trend, altogether different page, different look and feel, and different set of data which has been displayed. Again, it's the same, but it's based on the top 10 airports only, but a different information over here. Now I have a flexibility to select which all airports I want to see the data within the top 10, of course. So if I don't want to see the data for all these airports, I just have to deselect this, and if you look at the right hand side, my charts are getting my chart is getting updated based on the selection. So as of now I just have 5 airports which have been selected over here, and based on that, it's the data for those 5 airports have been displayed. It's a combination, it's called as a bubble grid chart. It's a combination of some matrices information based on the colors and the bubble size. More the bubble size, more is the revenue value. Green and the red color indicates the year on year growth. Towards green I have a positive trend, a positive percentage. Towards the red I have a negative percentage. So you really don't have to actually see the data, but it it actually shows you just by visualizing the data. Okay, my more bubble size, okay, this for this particular airport this particular year my revenue is very good, but if I look at the year on year growth is towards the negative trend. So yeah, you have a beautiful widgets, we have beautiful charts that you can actually even incorporate in your MicroStrategy dashboard. You can even on fly you can change your MicroStrategy chart type. If I don't want to see as a bubble grid, I can see the data as a line chart as well. So now if I click on adding the airports, a corresponding line would be added, and based on that my revenue information per year it's gonna be displayed in the output. So this is just a sample dashboard, but yeah, if you look over here, the 2 tabs giving much more information about the world airports, very beautifully designed, and very easy to actually browse your data through the different tabs and with the different perspective. Okay, I'm just going to take a pause over here. Any questions so far, Akshay?
No, Darpan,
Akash,
it's fine.
Akash, I'm so sorry.
It's alright. It's alright.
Okay, now this is one thing, and the last thing for today, let's try to create some dashboards on fly. This is dashboard which requires really a good effort, where you place every component based on the location, you define all the linkings and everything. There is something which is also called as visual insights, where you just have to drag and drop the objects and my dashboards will be created within few seconds. Even that kind of what do we say, the interface or the component which is available, and you can dash. Okay, it's, of course I agree it's going to be a limited feature, but yeah, if you're looking for a dashboard from some kind of a presentation, just within few clicks, within few drag and drop, my dashboard would be ready. So let's try to create a new dashboard from web. Of course I'm going to say I want to create a new report, sorry, create a new dashboard. I'm going to select one of the data set. I'm going to say okay. This data sets are pre-created. I've already created, and thereafter you just have to keep on selecting the formats on which you want to see the data, drag and drop the objects, and my data would be ready. So if you look over here, I have this objects for my drag and drop. I'm going to select the visualizations. First, let's start with a simple thing. I'm going to see the data for the grid. I want to see the data based on the categories and country. I'm just going to drag and drop. If you look over here, it's displaying the data based on country, category, cost, and discount. If I want to add something more, I will just drag and drop under the rows, and corresponding data it's going to be seen in the output. It's very simple. If you look over here, just drag and drop few objects, my data is ready. I want to add some visualization. I'm just going to click on add. I'm going to say I need a heat map this time, and from the heat map I want to see the data, let's say based on category. I want to see the data based on region. Yeah, and I do not want to see based on a discount, but this time I want to see the data based on profit, and size I want to see based on the revenue. Yep, let's not say region because it's let me just try to place a category and subcategory. I'm going to remove the region for now. Oh, okay, so now if you look over here, a beautiful heat map widget is in front of you. I have a heat map based on category, subcategory, and revenue and a profit data. So I have one entire thing for the electronics, and under that I would have a multiple subcategories like video equipment, cameras, and so on. So for each category I have one entire outer box, and within that for a multiple sub boxes based on the subcategories. Color indicating the uh, okay, let me just see color. Yeah, color is indicating me profit. Let me just change it to revenue. That makes more sense. Okay, so now if you look over here, my color okay, I already have a color, sorry, let be profit only. Okay, my color is indicating the profit values. So towards the green it's giving me the positive profit, towards the red it's giving me the lesser number of profit, and so on. And my boxes indicating the revenue size. More the box size, more is the revenue value. So I've just drag and drop few objects over here. My maps are ready, my widgets are ready, and the data just displays within a few seconds. So if you look over here, it's very easy to create a dashboard just on fly. You can just change where exactly you want to see the data, see the chart. I want to change the position. I'm just going to make it over here. So actually I have splitted the windows vertically. One side is showing me the some set of data, at the other end is showing me the grid and the graph. Let me just see the data this time as a bar chart. I'm going to drag and drop, and that's it. If you look over here, now it's showing me the data based on the country and the um, country and the year, and along with that I'm seeing the cost information. So if you look over here, I just drag and drop a few objects, selected some visualization, and my dashboard is ready in front of me for the presentation. So if I just want to present it, I'm going to go to the presentation format, and now I can actually present some kind of a data to the user or to my senior authorities to make them more understand about my data and what kind of information we are actually looking out for. So if it's just a single drag and drop, and my dashboard is right in front of us. This is just from the demo perspective, but yeah, we're going to cover much more in detail in the coming classes. Alright, so I'm just going to take a pause over here. We saw like what all things that we're going to cover during our training course. We went through MicroStrategy architecture, we saw the MicroStrategy desktop interface, we saw the MicroStrategy web interface, we created few reports, we created some sample dashboards. Any questions so far?
But I had a question regarding Visual Insight.
Uh-huh.
What is the advantage of using Visual Insight? Like, what's the difference between Visual Insight and the dashboard? Like, I see using Visual Insight is simpler for business users. They can easily drag and drop attributes, and they can create it on their own.
Yes.
Then what is the use of like creating a dashboard, a developer creating a dashboard?
Okay, so the visual insights, it's purely incorporated from the end user perspective who does not have a much knowledge on MicroStrategy development. Because now let's say for an example, you are the user for me, okay, and you have the data in your Excel sheet. I just want to do the analysis. I don't want to get this data processed from the back end, come to the data warehouse, and finally reside on and create a document or a dashboard where you have to place each and every field, define the linkings, define the drill downs. No, I'm just an end user. I do not want to go to the developer. I want to just import this Excel sheet into some a temporary cube file, and top of that I just want to create some data, create some report or a dashboard very quickly for my presentation perspective. In that case, you can always use a visual insight. A visual insight is something which will help them to create everything on fly. They can just drag and drop, they can define the filters. So now let's say for example I want to add some filters over here. I just, I can just add a filter on, let's say, category. I will drag and drop, I will select multiple categories over here, and based on that it's going to show me the data. Okay, it's everything is on fly, and the visual insights are generally used by the end users who do not have much knowledge about the architect or a development. So these dashboards can be created very quickly just from the presentation perspective, or just to analyze the data very quickly. There are a lot of things that you cannot be done in the visual insights which can be done in the dashboards. You cannot define the links. These are just limited to only this particular visualizations. You can just show the data in only this particular formats, but in my underlying dashboards or a document I have multiple widgets, the flash components and everything which cannot be, seen in the visual insight. So of course I have a much more functionality in the normal documents and a dashboard as compared to the visual insight. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, yeah, sort of, yeah, I guess.
Okay, so if you ask me like why visual insight, it's just a limited tool, okay, limited functionalities which will help the user who does not have much knowledge on MicroStrategy to create a dashboard just from the data analysis perspective, and that too very quickly. But the dashboard, you cannot define a link over here. I cannot click on the USA and it opens altogether different dashboard with showing me all the detailed information about USA and so on. It cannot create links, it cannot incorporate images and so on. So there are a lot of things that cannot be done. It's just for the users who have a very limited knowledge, but they just want to be independent and see the data and analyze it.
Okay.
Okay, all right.
Yep, thanks.
No problem. So we're just going to stop over here, and this is pretty much about the things that we generally cover up in the demo. But yeah, in the coming classes we're going to cover each and everything from the scratch much more in detail, and we will see like whatever the topics that we have discussed, we're going to be covered up during the next 4 to 5 weeks.
Okay.
Okay.
So can we talk about logistics a little bit?
Logistics in the sense of about
Like how long is going to be the class is going to be, and what days is it gonna be?
It's only going to be from Monday to Friday, around 1 hour, and it's going to take something around 5 weeks to complete the entire course. Approximate 5 weeks, that depends. It's generally range from 4 to 5 weeks, but yeah, within 5 weeks it's going to be covered up.
Monday to Friday? Oh no, I was looking for weekend classes.
That's fine. I was not updated. If you're looking out for a weekend, even that's fine. So generally weekend would have a few hours extra so that we cover, we don't
Yeah,
really don't
I
have.
want to complete it as soon as possible, as you know, like I need it on my work. So on weekends, like, is it possible for you to do at a stretch for like 2 to 3 hours?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, because I was not aware what the schedule you're looking out for. This is my general schedule. Okay, there are multiple batches which we run it, and it's generally depends upon the candidates what time they prefer. But if you're looking out
So
for
you're comfortable with weekend too, right?
yeah, I'm comfortable with the weekends. We can do it for the 2 to 3 hours, and we can cover all the topics and finish it off for you very quickly.
Yeah. So, and what time is it gonna be? Morning time, India time?
That's preferable, but yeah, I think we can discuss it out. I think for you, you're looking out for a Friday, Saturday EST or a Saturday, Sunday EST.
Let's see, Friday, Saturday.
So
I
that's
can.
what you can do is you can just think about the timings, and you can forward the same thing to the RVH. I will see what kind of time slot I can fix it for you only, and we can work it out from there.
Okay, and
Mm-hmm.
I would also need the video recordings. I also mentioned this to the HR of RVH that I would need video recording as well. So how can I get that? And
That
all the other materials about the course, I will be getting that too, right?
Yeah, the course we will share the PDFs, and from the recording I will have a discussion with RVH, and I think they can help you on that.
Yeah, if because I wouldn't like this is completely new field for me. I would need this so that I can refer back to what you taught,
Mm-hmm.
and I can use that. So if it
Yeah,
would be really helpful, and I would really need that. So please make
sure,
can you guys make sure that can get it?
sure. So I will just discuss with them, and we will confirm you on that as well.
Okay,
Sounds good.
and anything else? You said software. You will help me with the
Software, yeah, yeah.
software
Software should be good.
timings. Yeah, yeah, you told that. And I would need Windows laptop, right?
Yeah, Windows laptop. That's correct.
Okay, and timings. I will send an email like by tomorrow. Your time night. You might get an information about the timings. I'll just think about it.
Yeah, and I would
And
generally preferred in the morning slot of IIST because it's a
yeah,
weekend. Yeah.
yeah, that would be fine. Like yeah, that would be fine. I understand. Like you might also have work, something else. I
Mm.
understand that. And one
Mm.
more question. Yeah, and the course would be hands-on practical thing or
I'm going to show you everything practical implementation. I really don't go through slides because
yeah,
it's a waste of time for me.
right,
I
right.
really don't like to go through the presentations and share with you. I really, if you ask me, I have very few slides to share with you. I'm going to do everything as a hands-on, and you can do it. You can practice it out from your. I'm not going to give you some kind of an assignment so that like, okay, feel free to do anything on MicroStrategy. I'm going to show each and everything, how to create it, how to use it, how to define it, everything as a practical implementation, and you can do it hands-on from your end. If in case any query, you can discuss it in the classes throughout our training or so on.
All right. So if we do weekend 2 to 3 hours, we can finish it within like a month, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Within 4 weeks.
within 4 weeks. I mean, yeah, that should be good.
I mean, I don't want to rush you. Like I want
No,
to know
no,
that.
no, no, don't worry. I'm not going to rush it. I'm going to make sure that at the pace of training, it's going to be as per your requirement. You should be comfortable because at the end, we're going to focus on you. You should be comfortable with whatever the topics we have covered throughout the training. I'm not going to rush you. If in case you ask me to, say, okay, no, I didn't got this point, we're going to discuss on that in much more detail. So you really don't worry about that. It's going to be much more balanced pace, and we can discuss on each and every topic.
Okay. Okay, Darpan, thank you. I will send an email to the RVH HR about the timings as soon as possible,
Yep.
and we'll take it from there. And if we are going to start, can we start it from the following week?
Yeah, sure.
Coming week?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, I'll just discuss with them something and I'll let you know.
Sure, Akash.
Okay.
Yep. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot for
Yeah, thank
joining in, and we'll catch up soon.
Yeah, sure. Thanks.
Thank
See
you.
you.
Yep. Bye.
Bye.